Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of Cases That Should Have Gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Today we're talking about arbitrary detention. Cases that should have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. An individual was stopped by police, and in the course of the traffic stop, in plain view in the vehicle, the individual was seen to be in possession of cannabis. Ordinarily, this wouldn't pose much of an issue, other than perhaps a provincial ticket, but the officer believed that the amount of cannabis that he could see was an amount in excess of 30 grams, not something that you would legally be allowed to transport in plain view within reach of the driver in a car. And so the officer asked the accused to get out of the vehicle, searched the car, and discovered a number of other items that included guns, drugs, and money that led to criminal charges. At trial, the accused argued that the officer's grounds to get him out of the car and grounds to conduct the initial arrest for possession of a controlled substance were not reasonable on the basis of the amount of cannabis that they had, that the officer couldn't have had objectively reasonable grounds to believe that he had more than 30 grams of cannabis when the amount of cannabis that was found was actually only 19.5 grams. And the officer should be able to eyeball the number of grams to see whether or not it is above or below the limit. Unfortunately, the court disagreed, and the Supreme Court of Canada denied leave to appeal. And this case raises a very important issue, because if now we have legalization of some substances, and in British Columbia, decriminalization of other substances, but within certain amount thresholds, meaning that you can possess only a certain quantity, then it raises concerns about wrongful arrests in circumstances where officers can't determine visually when they see a product whether or not that's above or below the threshold. And obviously there's always going to be cases where it's close to the line, where maybe you have 29 grams and not 30 grams, and it would be difficult to expect an officer to be able to eyeball that. But where it's so far off, where it's less than 2/3 of what the amount is that is presumed to be illegal, then the officers should be able to get that right. And the courts need to be starting to apply a more stringent standard in these types of cases, because otherwise the whole point of legalization, the elimination of the harassment of individuals who are in possession of or using cannabis, the whole point of decriminalization, which includes the elimination of the harassment of street-level drug users, and the whole savings that we get from having legalization in having fewer cases go through our justice system, is for naught, because people are going to be arrested anyway, because an officer can't tell the difference between 30 and 19.5 grams of cannabis. This is not something that the court should have allowed to stand. The reasonable grounds standard always needs to evolve as what's reasonable changes in the circumstances, and what should be expected of a properly trained officer changes as the law changes. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court of Canada really missed an opportunity here to look at the way that an officer's reasonable grounds need to be assessed now through the light of legalization and the light of what it is expected that they should know before they take enforcement action. It's unfortunate the Supreme Court of Canada didn't see the significance of this issue, especially as it impacts upon other decriminalization projects across this country. And hopefully they'll have another opportunity to hear it before too many people are arrested for having a legal amount of a substance they're allowed to have. Cases that should have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cases That Should Have Gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. I'm Kyla Lee at Acumen Law Corporation. Thank you to Brazen Bull Creative for putting together these videos. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.